Hello, everyone. My name is Paul. I'm a sales and customer support person with iDRY Systems. Really glad you guys can jump on this and happy to work through this with you guys of how to finance equipment costs for your business. I see some familiar names and I assume I've spoken to some of you, but at this point, I feel like you guys have probably found iDRY Systems and realize the benefit that it could add to your business or potentially starting a business solely around drying wood. I'm here with somebody we partnered with, Jeff Coyner. He's from Seco Inc. and our finance expert. And I think after this meeting, you guys will see why we partnered with Jeff. He brings a lot of knowledge, a lot of industry experience to the table. I believe he's funded a whole bunch of portable sawmills through Wood-Mizer. And yeah, Jeff, go ahead and jump in and talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, so for me, I've been around it my whole life. I used to work in a sawmill. I helped build sawmills. I used to grade lumber. So I know how it all works. 5 years ago, I didn't even know what an iDRY was. And so it was introduced to me through a customer, a big customer, a Wood-Mizer customer in Georgia. And I said, what in the world's an iDRY? He says, well, it's a vacuum kiln. And I said, so what? And so he explained to me the benefits of it, how it dried his wood exceedingly fast and killed all the insects. Jim Parker got a hold of me, wanted to know if we could partner up on this. So I said yes, but I wanted to investigate the facility before I did it. I want to see how they build it. I want to see the welds that you could never see unless you take the kiln apart. And the kilns you can't see look just like the ones you can see. And I tell people they're built like a Ferrari. They're stainless steel inside. There's very high quality. And here's the other thing is the people that are working on them love being there.
Yeah.
And that's just really important. Instead of grumpy bunch of guys in there, they're hustling and they're getting these kilns out and they're done perfect. And so that's why I came on, partnering with the sawmill industry. And plus I do a lot of logging equipment as well.
Yep.
We do the finance and sales on those also. We started getting deals from iDRY, and this is prior to Paul, and we were closing them up because they would say, hey, there's a guy interested in financing. He needs to know some info. And it all started right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So anyway, so you had some questions for me, Paul. So
yeah, I get a wide variety of customers calling in. It's anywhere from a guy who's got a sawmill who sees the value in selling dried wood. It could be a small furniture manufacturer that's already got a DH kiln and he really needs to ramp up production, or it can be somebody who sees a giant gap in the area they're in and everybody they know is got a sawmill, but nobody's drying wood. And, what's the next step really for them to turning that kind of dream of increasing their profits or possibly moving away from their current job into owning a business and financing one of these machines to make it all happen?
Yeah, that's pretty wide open. I mean, I've done everything from guys who are startups who have never they don't own a sawmill. And we remember a few years ago, we had a couple that were in the UP in Michigan bought a kiln so that he could dry other people's wood. He didn't own a mill.
Yep.
So he could dry other people's wood so he could raise enough money to buy a mill. I mean, that's one scenario. And he was a startup. They have good credit. They have money in the bank. And they have some industry experience. If they've got all that, for the most part, they can be done even as a startup. And then we've got guys that do, 8 or 10 million a year that are getting away from the old style steam kilns and getting into the bigger, the iDRYs, because they just do it so much faster. And again, I keep stressing it kills the bugs. And I mean, I can't think of anything that would be worse than a guy building a really nice walnut table and the next morning there's a pile
Have
of
a
sawdust.
bug or some
Yeah,
sawdust on the floor. And
yeah, so
yeah.
it does all that. So there's all kinds of scenarios. For the most part, just about anybody that I talk to, I can get done. I can, and we figure out ways of doing it. They may have a construction company. Now they're expanding into woodworking, or they decided it costs too much to buy beams from Home Depot. They're going to start cutting their own and drying their own or whatever. And we can do cross corporate guarantees with those guys on the new company, and they would not be considered a startup as long as they've got good credit, money in the bank. It's really pretty simple to do. It's just being massively creative to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. And it's worked out quite well. So,
and so to narrow it down a little bit, if they just own a sawmill, they do it on the side, the first step would be to get a business name, either an LLC or
it's really not
accountant,
required, but what I've run into is a lot of guys are doing it and they're making money. They've never filed taxes on anything, which I'm not a fan of taxes either, but they would have needed to file a Schedule C in years past. So they could be a sole proprietorship that started in 2016 and they have a Schedule C. The lenders will count that as time in business. Just because you're not a corporation does not mean you can't be done. I'm against sole proprietorships on a personal basis because your liability is through the roof. You can lose everything you own. But that's something you'd want to confer with an attorney or an accountant or both, and not me. But yeah, I mean, if they've got the money and they've got some credit, one of my lenders, they just need to own a house and have some money in the bank. We can get that done. So that's not hard to do. And so, but then we have our A lenders, our A customers that have been in business for over 5 years. They've bought a lot of equipment. And that's called comp credit or comparable credit, where somebody else has loaned them money. And if that's the case, I've had them done in 2 hours. Yeah. And we get great rates and a 90-day no pay for these guys.
That's awesome. And you mentioned having some money in the bank. Is there a ballpark of like what kind of percentage or any kind of guidance there? Or is that, obviously there's some flexibility?
It's a variable, but what I'm starting to see is anywhere from 30 to 50% of what you're trying to borrow in the bank. They it's not, and they want to see your accounts. And so a lot of guys will only show me one and they have 5. Show me all of them. They do not lien the accounts. They just want to make sure you have the financial wherewithal to service the debt. That's all it's for. And I've used this adage a bunch of times recently, is if we can kill them with a spoon to get it approved, let's use a baseball bat. Because I'm a very poor loser, and I do not like not making deals happen.
And I've noticed that feedback from customers is they go to you and you're easy to have just an open conversation about their situation. It's like you said before, it's a test that you know the questions to, and you can set them up for success and kind of get them prepped. And I believe you don't send out an application to a whole bunch of different lenders. You kind of get it narrowed down.
I screen them. I'll do is I'll put the package together, because I've done this for a while. I'll interview them, and I make them all do previews, do not pull credit. And so I know with one of my lenders, they told me that 96% of the deals I send in are approved.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's because I know their underwriting and I know how they do it. But it's so credit driven. And I remember years ago doing this, I was talking to a guy and he says, well, what kind of rate am I going to get? I said, you're going to get what you deserve. And he goes, well, that's not fair. And so if you've got good credit, it should not be a problem. And they look for slow pays or too much revolving debt, which is like credit card debt and stuff like that. So, but again, I can still get those done. So sometimes the rates aren't quite as good as we could get with guys.
For sure. Yeah. And I've heard from customers, and I've seen challenges where they go to a regular bank, or they go talk to someone and they say, you want to finance a kiln? What are you doing? A pottery studio? So having somebody like you who kind of knows the industry and knows the ins and outs and has the contacts. So there's more to it than just the interest rate. It's partnering with somebody like you who can set somebody up for success,
Yeah, the local banks are really wonderful because they have a relationship with them. They may bank there and everything else. But I've run into this predominantly in the South, is that they will loan a guy money. Let's say he's got $100,000 credit line. They love him, and the banks don't report. And we use reports, PayNet, Experian, Equifax, all these. Is if the bank does not report, nobody knows that you've ever borrowed money before. And what's wrong with that is that if you're tapped at that bank, you can't get financing someplace else because they don't report. So nobody knows you borrowed $100,000 and you've paid it as agreed. And they don't know what a kiln is. They don't have any idea what it is. And the people I've set up with not only know what a kiln is, I've got programs set up especially for iDRY because they know what a moneymaker it is. It's not like it's going to depreciate. And like I tell the bank, I said, it's not like kids on Saturday night are going to get drunk, hotwire the kiln to get to town, and it's not going to go anywhere.
They have a big crate.
As long as you take care of it, it's going to be exactly what you bought it, how it was when you bought it in 5 years. So what have you got to lose? And I've told customers that if you decide you don't want to dry anymore, we'll have it sold by noon. I mean, we can get rid of it. So it's a piece of cake.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is when I've talked to customers, again, because I've done this, they've got a mill and the wood's green. And I said, well, you have wood. And I said, when you put it through an iDRY, you have lumber.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. Wood, you can use in the fireplace. Lumber, you can build a cabinet with. Huge difference, value added through the roof.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that I speak to are paying these machines back or 2 years, they get an ROI on their investment for these machines, which is insane for, that type of payback. But back to your point of they don't know that you borrowed $100,000. That really, so many guys I speak with, my best potential for selling a kiln is somebody who bought one 2 years ago because they're ready to get a second kiln. They have the business, they have people, and they can calculate how much more money a second kiln is going to get them. And that's really where commercial lending and building that commercial line of credit so you can expand in the future is super important. So.
It is. And I've explained this a number of times to guys. So once they have commercial credit established and they're 3 or 4 years into it, it's a cakewalk after that. They can literally call me and go, Jeff, I think I want to buy another kiln. I want to buy a plus. Yep. They bought a standard maybe, and they bought several other pieces of equipment. Now that they have commercial credit established, that phone call is basically all I need. And we gather info from iDRY, maybe get an updated credit app, which I keep all of them on file, and I get it approved a lot of times over the phone with the lender, and I'll send them docs and we're done. And that can all happen in 1 day. But that's once they get commercial credit established, I tell them they've pretty much arrived. Life gets wonderful at that point. Yeah. It's not only for an iDRY kiln. It's not only for a wood miser or a baker. It's for a bobcat. It could be for almost anything else. They've established commercial credit. Yep. And it's just incredibly important that they have it.
Yeah, that's great.
So and we can sometimes get references from banks. It's like pulling teeth. And some of my lenders won't take a reference from a regular bank. So again, commercial credit paramount of being important.
Absolutely. And guys, we can we have a chat box open. I'm monitoring. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Jeff or myself while we're on here, I'll do my best to answer them. Jeff's kind of on the same boat as me. If it's really nuanced, we're happy to set up a meeting and have a conversation about your particular situation. For me, on the technical help and selecting a kiln and talking about your business and that aspect. And of course, Jeff on the financing side of things. Yeah, it's like I said, really, I see Jeff. I talk to Jeff daily. We're in contact daily.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, at least quite often. So
Yeah.
he's a great partner. Super on top of it. If you call him, sometimes too much, he'll call me back right away, and I need a little bit. But no, he's
yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing is that, and because I come from the woodworking industry, I tell my customers that I'm brutally blunt sometimes, and it's not to be rude. It's just cut to the chase. This is the way it is. And, you know, every one of them have said, man, I really appreciate that, because I don't want to waste time, him and Han. I'm not going to tell, you know, stretch it out or anything else. So we can, you know, email us, and then we're happy to contact you as fast as we possibly can, and try to get everything or any of your questions resolved.
Yep. We actually had a question come in from Greg. What are the advantages or disadvantages of the leasing program? And I'll jump in on this. And I tell every customer that I speak with, try to get financed first, 100%. Even if your interest rate is higher, I would try to get financing. There's a couple reasons for that. Leasing is by far the most expensive way to buy a kiln from us. That's no doubt if you do the math. Also, for the lease, you're locked in for 60 months. If you cut off your leg, and if something catastrophic happens, you're responsible for that payment for 60 months. There's no way out of it. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, we've had a few, we don't see used kilns often, but when they do, they move quickly, and they're a few $1,000s less than new, because there's such demand for these units. Mm-hmm. It's an escape strategy that I would feel comfortable with. With that being said, if we have it for somebody who can't get a loan, no matter what, if you have good personal credit and there's no way to put the pieces together to get financing, a lease could be a good option. We've had companies who have built empires of drawing off one lease, and you can build commercial credit that way. It can be done, but go the financing route first is my suggestion always.
Well, the leases, I hate them. Well, I don't like it. Well, it's a contract to make payments, not necessarily buy a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And you're right, the rates are different. And it's not your kiln. You get to expense it out because it's a lease. But on a loan, the rates are considerably less. You know, it's depending. And the thing is, the lease would be the last resort. That's
exactly.
If we can't get done anywhere, do the lease. That way, getting it done. But I don't like them because you're locked in for 60 months. And so I try to stay away from those. I don't think I've ever leased an iDRY kiln, because I can do leases also. Mm-hmm. The loan's just absolutely the way to go.
It's the way to go. I agree. Last resort on the lease. But yeah, try to get it financed. We got another one from Matt Mead. What is the current lead time for an iDRY standard? And is the lead time any different if purchased cashed or financed? So yeah, here's the answer to that. Right now, the lead time as of a week ago was 1 month, but we are back up to 2-3 months. It changes, it fluctuates. We get orders all the time. These machines are all hand welded. And I will say, if somebody is unable to take delivery, they don't have their site ready, they don't have their financing ready, and if you have already paid for it in full, you're going to get jumped up the line. If you're able to take delivery when the unit's ready and we can get it out the door, you get jumped up the line if you have all your ducks in a row. We have trouble with guys thinking they have 3 months. It's a decent amount of time, but if you don't start your financing till a month before, and then the lead time, a couple people drop out, then the lead time bumps up, and you're kind of like, oh crap, I don't have my ducks in a row. So I hope that answers that question.
Well, I can't tell you, Paul, you can reiterate this, is that I can't tell you how many guys have waited or drugged their feet, supposed to get back to us because they want financing. They don't return phone calls, don't return the credit app, and they think they can get done. And sometimes I can, but sometimes I find out that the kiln's gonna be ready in 2 days.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna probably get bumped to another guy because you waited too long.
Yeah.
Or they can't get financed, and then they're gonna get bumped even after they've given a deposit. So
yeah.
These things are being spit out as fast as possible, and there's no lag time, none. So
that's the lesson. Start your financing early, folks. Get it ready to
just have everything done.
Yeah.
And because the approvals are pretty good for at least 3 months right now, and sometimes longer, just because of the current supply chain problem. The banks are realizing that, and they're stretching them out. But then again, that's one of the reasons why we put together the 3-month no pay, 90-day no pay, and no money down. I mean, they can order the kiln and they'll get the kiln, let's say in a month, but they still won't have a payment for 2 more months. And it's give them an opportunity to make money with the kiln, prior to their first payment.
Especially with a $5,000 deposit. If you do 3 months no pay and it's got a 3-month lead time and they fund the whole thing, they're going to be ready to go. And you aren't going to have any payments really until it gets delivered. So that's an option. Completely up
well,
to each
iDRY
person.
makes a conscious effort to get you your kiln as fast as possible when that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the question.
Anyway, just trying. I mean, there's just so many scenarios to run. I mean, all the guys want to know what the rates are. So let me tell you what ideal is right now. Is I can get a 90-day no pay. The rates are 5.2. And there's no money up front, no money down. So do the math with your calculator or whatever, and that's the going rates. And here's another thing, is if you really want one, send us stuff right away, because the Fed's supposed to be raising rates next month. And who knows what in the world's going to happen with that. I believe it's probably going to go up a half a point.
Yep.
And we want to get that taken care of. We have an approval now. It's a locked rate. It does not go up next month. So don't wait. For your own sake, don't wait.
Yeah, I've been hearing those March dates of interest rates going up for a while now. So like you said, if it is something you're interested in, he can get you locked in. And lead times right now are good. We're 2 to 3 months on a standard. We're about 3 to 4 months on a plus. If anything, we sandbag a little bit. We don't like to miss our lead times. We don't miss our lead times. So yeah, we can get it done.
Yeah. So iDRY tends to under promise and over deliver. So
that's what our goal is.
Yeah. So if they tell you 3 months, I'm going to tell you, don't count on it. It's probably going to be closer to the end of 2 months.
Yeah.
And because I've been caught in that trap with them. Oh, hey, that guy's kiln's ready. It'll be ready on Friday. Well, geez, it's Wednesday. I don't even have the app back yet. And so we push them, and then we just tell them that we're going to sell your kiln to somebody else. That really gets them motivated right off the bat.
Got another one in from Matt Mead. Sorry. 5.2 over what term? 48 months or 60 months?
60 months.
60 months.
Yeah. 60 months. So just want to help you cash flow. We can even get longer terms than that, to 72 for some guys, and that will lower the payment as well. I mean, when you make the decision to buy a kiln, it's not like you're buying it for the next 6 months. You're buying it long term, and you're probably never going to get rid of it until you quit or whatever. And so there's nothing wrong with 72 months at all. And the down payment won't be any different. The 90-day no pay might not be there, but it might be, depending on your credit. And it's just, I got to tell you guys, there's so many scenarios. Paul and I talked about this prior to this. We could be here for a week talking scenarios, but for the most part, we can get almost everything done, everything approved. So when you're talking to me, if I go quiet, does not mean I'm not paying attention. I'm beginning to formulate what to do with the deal, where to send it, how to make it what I call float, plug all the holes in the boat so we can get it approved. That's the whole thing. And Communication's huge. So when we send you a credit app, get back to us. We want to make sure you got it. If you don't, we figure you're not interested, then we move on. So that's just because there's a lot of volume going on right now. But get in line before the rate goes up. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I can't. Jeff and I are always available. I just want to reiterate that. I tell so many customers, just give Jeff a call, have a conversation about your situation, because like he will formulate a plan. He'll look at potential hazards and help you prepare for those. He'll, really set you up for success in starting the business that you want to, and increasing your profit.
I've had 2 or 3 companies, and I started off by failing, which is a great way to learn. And now I'm an S corp, for being the others, and it's just, that's how this whole thing works. We're here to help you the best we possibly can and advise the best we can.
Yeah, and along those lines, so to the guys on the line here, iDRY is currently standing up what we're calling a business bundle. It's a completely optional package, but we're going to be able to help set up your business from ground one. Whether you guys want to do an S corp, LLC, however you guys want to set it up, we can even help you pick a business name that's not going to get lost in the quagmire, or use yours. We can work on your website. We can do marketing for you. We can integrate a great software from a company called Trace, who we've been partnering with on the back end, that can do inventory management, create QR codes for your wood. That's something that's coming up soon. If people want to take advantage of it and join, it'll be a subscription style. It'll be somewhat a la carte. You can pick what makes sense for you, what doesn't, but keep your eyes and ears posted for more information on that. Got another question that just came in. Any example of people starting a pre-time custom drying business that turned into a full-time business?
Most of them.
Yeah. One of our biggest proponents is Ed Pearson, who you may have seen him. He's all over our, the iDRY groups. But Ed started out by leasing one unit because that's the only way he could get it done. Now he has multiple units. He's charging 20 cents per board foot per day. He says he's 3 months back. He's making $600 a day for each plus that he has, and clearing $20,000 a month. And he's it's changed his life. He's called me up and he said it's really changed his life. I've had other guys that have started out just for some extra income, and I heard a story from another guy who his daughter had cerebral palsy and he wanted to start a drying service to help supplement that. And he's, doing great, and it's a great business for him. So it's possible.
We've got a customer that I've been talking to and by the name of Kevin Ferdinand. He's in Minnesota. Yep. And he called me last week. He was buying another piece of equipment because he'd done a kiln, but now he has commercial credit established, and we got it done basically over the phone. And he started laughing on the phone, and I go, "What's up?" He goes, "Jeff, I'm making so much money right now. I'm worried about taxes." And I said, "Well, I told him about Section 179s and so on and so forth." He says, "This kiln is making me so much money. I've got people stacked up." And he was giggling on the phone. And yet, for those that, wonder, if I know much about him, but this hat is from my son's company, who he does not own a sawmill. He owns a kiln in Missoula, Montana, and is drying other people's wood. So that's kind of how much we believe in the product, that my son bought one. He's nuts because he drove all the way from Montana to Vermont with a trailer to pick it up. But he's drying other people's wood. And so a case in point, he went to Cancun a couple of weeks ago for a week, loaded the kiln and left. And when he came back, the wood was dry.
Yeah.
And so it can afford all kinds of things to do that. And it has gone. I'm going to tell you, once everybody knows you have a kiln, you will be absolutely inundated with people, because the dehumidification systems are okay. They just don't really work. I mean,
not for the thing.
if you're going to do production, I mean, so I started all this when I talked about a customer in Georgia dries walnut slabs. And I said, so what? You know, he says, it takes me, in a pole barn, takes me 3 years to dry a 3-inch walnut slab. He says, an iDRY kiln takes me 6 weeks.
Yeah. So
the ROI is insane on it. Yeah. And the bugs are dead. It's not sitting out there. You're waiting for your money for 3 years. These tops are done. These slabs are done. So it's, yeah, and you know what? And working with your hands and not working for somebody else is a wonderful thing.
That's one of the biggest. One is, I get 2 calls: the younger guy who wants to take over the world and have a kiln drying empire, all the way to the guy that's, you know, getting towards the end of his career and he wants to stay busy, he wants to stay active, he wants some supplementary income, and he wants his one kiln and just to stay busy with that. And that's fine too. There's no, but I've been here for, you know, 6.5 months now, and I've seen so many success stories. And when I first started selling these to some guys, I'm like, oh man, I hope you know, I'm really rooting for the customers, and I haven't heard one person fall on their face. If anything, I've had guys call me back and say, you know, I think I'm going to be ordering that second kiln sooner than I thought. It's been,
well, we had a customer, or have a customer in Jacksonville, Florida, that bought a kiln, and about 6 weeks later he called, and he had it, called me and he goes, Jeff, I need another kiln. And I said, wow, you're really busy. He goes, no, I haven't been able to use my kiln. Everybody else is using it. I'm drying other people's wood. Yeah. He says, I need another kiln. So he ordered another kiln, got that kiln, started drying his own wood, then ordered another kiln. And those are all 3 iDRY pluses.
Yep. And
so once people know, and this package that Paul's talking about will probably bury you with business. I'm telling you, once the small wood guys have a source to dry their wood, they'll fight over who's first in line. Again, they're putting wood in and lumber out. You got you know, added value to the kiln.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, less than 2-year payback on these. It sounds crazy when you're looking at a $90,000, $100,000 investment. But it's happening. It's happening regularly.
The other thing, guys, too, is not just the small kilns. We have full-blown established sawmills that have been in business for 30 years buying these kilns. They're buying the bigger ones, but they're buying these kilns because that's how well they work.
Well, there's value in decentralizing. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but decentralizing these giant steam systems. If that system's down, all your wood's down. When you have multiple units that are similar, you can service one unit and not lose all of your capacity. It's the same on the small end as it is on the large end, but larger companies are definitely starting to realize.
Well, yeah, I want to say one thing, because I saw a question came in.
Yeah.
Is that you'll go to Home Depot and buy a 2x4, 2x6, whatever it is. Say it has KD on it. You drive a nail in it, and you get squirt in the eye by water coming out of it. Those are steam kiln dried. Then they can consider them kiln dried, but they're not dry. They may be kiln, but they're not dry. And yours will not have that problem. You have to also get a moisture meter. You got to have one of those to do this. The
meter is key.
Yeah.
Got one more question that came in from Matt. If I do this as a side hustle, how do you use my day job for qualifying for financing? I do have an LLC set up, but almost all my income is from my day job. So I think, Matt, he's going to want to know what your day job is, probably, to see if
because sometimes we can get it to parallel or going, or is it a day job, or does he own the company, or does he work for somebody else? If he's got the LLC, how long has it been set up? And let's just say it's the LLC's 4 months old. He's been in and around. He's a contractor or works for a contractor, been dealing with wood, builds cabinets for somebody else. He's got money in the bank and has credit. We can get those guys done.
Yeah.
It's not a 5% rate, but it's how you start. And just because we start off with the higher rate doesn't mean we end with it. It just means that's where we start.
And the higher rate is, as I mentioned, better than the lease option.
Yep. Plus, if you want to ever sell it or upgrade, you want to sell it and buy a bigger kiln, it's easy to do with a loan. Very easy to do. So best thing to do is get back to us with any kind of questions via email. Probably just go to Paul, find out what it is, and he'll shoot them to me, and then we'll confer with you privately.
Yeah. I'll put my email in the chat. I think I've spoken to some of these guys already, but happy to connect them with you and set up you guys can have a conversation or answer whatever questions that I can. So.
Well, can you think of anything else we need to go over, Paul, on this? I mean, the scenarios are a week long. So
yeah,
the best thing is just let us take a shot at it and discuss it. If we can't get it done, I'm going to say, hey, you're not going to get done. And we won't waste anybody's time. But I'll tell you, I've had guys come to me that want to buy a kiln, and that's another one. And he's doesn't have much credit, but he's got a buddy that's owns a construction company. Well, we can do the buddy DBA, the new company, and all he does is guarantee the new company. It's not a cosign. He guarantees it. So if the new company defaults, the buddy ends up being responsible for the debt, but all the payments will be made by the new company. The principal of the new company will be on the hook, the whole thing. And it helps establish credit by using somebody else's credit to get you going. So we've done that also.
Yeah, I got a question that just came in, and sorry, Jeff, this is going to be for me, but are you seeing much traffic for them in Ontario? I have milled, and quickly finding the storage of wood while it dries is going to be a challenge with the exchange rates and such. Would you anticipate it working up here? I sell to customers and talk to customers north of the border all the time. You guys have a lot of wood up there. Some of our biggest units, there's a company called Bester up there that just got 2 iDRY Pros. I just sold a unit to a guy in Montreal who's going to actually come down and pick it up since he's so close. You do need to find your own broker. Obviously, there's the exchange rate. I have a broker that I could recommend that you could work with, or you could find your own. But guys in Ontario and other parts of Canada are using them all the time and having success with them. Absolutely.
Yeah, we can't do business in Canada.
And we would like to, wouldn't we, Jeff?
We'd like to. We've tried everything we could possibly come up with.
Yep.
The Canadian lenders are horrible to deal with, and they want us to deliver the kiln to Saskatoon before it's paid for. And, of course, that's not going to happen. And the lenders down here, most of them aren't set up there. So
we do have a kiln in Saskatoon, so good example.
I don't doubt it. I just brought up Saskatoon. Great town, been there.
Yep.
But I'd love to be able to do business in Canada, but I just haven't found a way to do it yet.
Yeah, so you do need your own lender and your own broker, but we sell them to Canada all the time. They work great. You just need to have it in a conditioned building. We're in Vermont, so our climate isn't much different than a lot of parts of Canada. Yep.
Right. So anyway, there'll be a lot more questions. I just don't know what else I could possibly answer. So
we hit the overarching stuff. We could sit here all day and come up with hypotheticals like we said, but I think the takeaway is if you have specific questions or you want to talk specifically about your business and you want to make this happen, give myself or Jeff a call, and we can work with you, see where you're at.
Go through Paul, that way he can register everything so he knows who I'm talking to. But yeah, and then I'd be happy to talk to you and figure out any way we can get this done.
Yep.
So
Chris, do you have any videos that show the turbo lumber quality coming out of the kiln? It's funny. We got the Turbo Mini. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it. We've been in pre-production with it. We got a bunch of them sold. We just loaded it with 2,500 board feet of sugar maple, hard maple. That was a standing tree 3 weeks ago. And we're hoping to have that down to 7% plus or minus in less than 5 days. We'll put together a video of that. If you go to our YouTube channel, I think actually Brian just posted a video of us unloading. We just did our first test batch with just some pine that we had cut. The lumber comes out flat as a pancake, and absolutely beautiful and white. And keep your eyes peeled for that sugar maple we're going to be pulling out of it next week. Happy to, yeah, check out our YouTube channel. We post everything to there.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we should cover? I mean, we'll get into the nitty gritty details when we talk, but don't think that you can't get financed, because you probably can. Most of I would say if I talk to 100 people, 95 of them I can get done.
Yep.
It just, they don't think they can, but you got to think not only outside the box, but outside the house, and trying to figure out a way to get them done. And you'd be shocked some of the stuff that we've gotten approved. Trucking companies, we've gotten them done. And, you know, the lender goes, you know, what's a trucking company doing with it? No. And I said, well, have you ever had to redeck a flatbed trailer or a lowboy trailer? It has to be kiln dry. Oh, okay. And they do it. And so, you know, if you're a beauty salon and you want a kiln, that might be a little tough. But, you know, just run it by us, run the scenario by us, and we'll do anything we can to help you out and succeed. That's the other thing. It's not,
we want you to be successful. I don't want to sell a kiln and have anybody. Our goal is to have every one of our customers, from us all the way over to Jeff, as we ultimately, we want you to be successful. We want you to change your life. We want you to, you know, maybe quit your job that you don't like and work for yourself. And that's our goal.
I've told guys literally, you know, they said, well, geez, can you make money with these? I think this guy was in Tennessee, and I said, here's what I want you to do. Get yourself an iDRY Plus, a lawn chair, and a 6-pack of beer. Sit in front of the door and make money, because that's exactly what happens. And it's changed their lives. A lot of these guys, it's changed their lives, especially when you can walk away and go do something else. Cut more lumber, cut more wood, do whatever you want to do. Or, you know, when you fill your kiln, if you don't have it full, put somebody else's in there, but never run the kiln unless it's full. Because it costs the same amount whether it's full or not, but you can make somebody else pay for drying your wood if you think about it.
I've had a sawyer say to me, they go, Paul, you know, we do all the work, pull the wood out of the, you know, logs out of the wood. We load them up on our machine. We cut it into lumber. We stack it. I bring it over to the guy with a kiln. He pushes it in and hits a button, and he makes all the money on it. So it works while you're sleeping. It makes you money while you're sleeping, and that's kind of the idea. So
right. So, all right, guys. Well, I guess this probably wraps it up. I can't think of anything else. If anybody has any questions, please get a hold of Paul. And we'll do our best at answering or getting back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
Bet.
Thank you.